Yesterday morning, police were advised of a petrol drive-off from a service station in Port Augusta with a blue Ford sedan. About 10:50, so about 20 minutes later, police located that vehicle and a brief pursuit commenced. It was called off very quickly because of the erratic and dangerous driving behaviour of the driver. We learned that that vehicle was also stolen. It had been stolen from a Port Augusta address on the 2nd of January. The vehicle was last seen heading towards Whyalla, and later in the morning, Whyalla patrols saw the vehicle on numerous occasions. We did not engage in a pursuit. Due to the nature again of the driving of the vehicle and the fact that it was actively driving around in the Whyalla area, PolAir was activated and sent to the location. And from about 1:30 p.m. yesterday, tracked that vehicle west on the Eyre Highway out towards Kimba. At times, the driving behaviour of that vehicle was quite erratic, up to approximately 180 kilometres an hour at points in time, and also driving onto the wrong side of the road. And clearly this type of driving behaviour, necessitates us to intervene so that we try and minimise or disable the vehicle to prevent any potential loss of life, particularly innocent motorists who might have been travelling on the road at the time. About 2:40 p.m, the vehicle stopped in a car parking bay, a roadside rest stop, about 37 kilometres east of Kimba. The sole occupant, had got out of the vehicle, and at this time, police in a plain vehicle were able to get into the car park, set some spikes at both the entrance and exit to the car park, and approached the male. As they did, he got back into the car and drove off at speed, narrowly missing one of our police officers. The vehicle was successfully spiked as it left the parking bay, and in less than 2 kilometres down the road, with no police pursuing at the time, the driver has lost control of the vehicle and crashed on the side of the road. It was able to be seen and relayed back to local police, who were able to respond very quickly and found the male unconscious. And despite attempts to conduct CPR, the male died at the scene. This person is a 33-year-old person from an Adelaide metropolitan area based address. And because of the fact that this person was actively trying to avoid being apprehended by police, what that means is that it falls into the definition of a death in custody. So what that means is that we have additional layers of investigation that occur in these circumstances. The coroner has been notified, and there obviously will be a criminal investigation as part of that. There'll be an overlay in terms of an internal investigation as well. A major crash, as they do with any road-related death, are investigating the cause of the crash. But there will also be that overlay, as I said, from internal investigations in relation to the processes and the actions of police at this time. Every life lost is an absolute tragedy. We undertook our police officers undertook an active risk assessment whilst they were actually involved in this incident, clearly trying to balance the need to apprehend this person with maintaining that person's safety, but also the safety of other people on the road. And one of those major determining factors was that the erratic and consistent erratic driving of this particular person was putting other people's lives on the roads at potential risk. So like I said, this will form part of an ongoing investigation for the coroner, but also the facts will be investigated in terms of the police actions by our internal investigations people.
So just to clarify, the driver had exited the vehicle within the car park, then the spikes were placed, and then they got in and drove off. So they weren't travelling up to 180 when they were spiked. So,
as I understand at this point in time, the driver had pulled into a rest bay, they had got out of the vehicle, that's when police approached. There were spikes set at some point in time in terms of the rest bay, and then as police had approached, the person has jumped back into the vehicle and driven off at speed. So again, as they've left, they've been spiked, or the vehicle's been spiked. and they've still continued to drive quite erratically as they left the parking bay, and a very short time afterwards, lost control of the vehicle and crashed on the side of the road.
But could they be driving at speed when they were spiked? Because that, of course, would lead to a pretty serious sort of crash, I'm assuming.
Well, the crash occurred about 1.8 kilometres west of where the parking bay was. So, the vehicle's been spiked, as I understand it, as it was leaving the parking bay. It's then travelled about 1.8 kilometres along the Eyre Highway towards Kimba, and has then lost control. The driver's lost control of the vehicle and crashed on the side of the road.
Do you have an indication of how fast the driver was travelling at the time of the accident?
Not at the time of the accident, but as I said, on numerous occasions, this person or this vehicle was seen to be driving quite erratically, and I've been advised that at times this vehicle was travelling up to approximately 180 kilometres an hour, and also travelling on the wrong side of the road at points in time as well. So clearly the danger is evident for other road users, and clearly we needed to do something to try and disable this vehicle and potentially stop this person from killing themselves, which unfortunately has been the outcome for this. And just as importantly, stopping them from killing innocent road users out in the highway.
And just to confirm, they were going towards Kimba? Because in our vision it looks like the car's facing Iron Knob.
So, yeah, my understanding is that it was travelling towards Kimba. So, yeah, I'm not sure if the vision shows the vehicle after it's actually come to rest in terms of which way it's facing. That could be part of the crash and how the vehicle's just finished up.
Have police confirmed that the individual was the one who actually stole the car?
We understand that this person was the suspect for stealing the car on the 2nd of January, but clearly being in a stolen car, at the time that police have observed them, in itself is another offence as well, let alone the petrol drive-offs, and the driving behaviours as well. But yes, this person was a person of interest for this stolen vehicle.
At what point was the pursuit terminated? So once police have tried to spike you, is that when it was called off, or can you talk us through when it was terminated?
So we haven't actually been pursuing this vehicle at all.
Okay.
Because of the fact of the erratic driving behaviour, etc., we didn't want to continue to unduly influence the behaviour of this person. And I think you could draw an assumption here that the fact that they've actually pulled over into a rest bay would indicate that we have not been actively pursuing them. Otherwise, you could assume that they would have continued driving. So it's only once the vehicle has pulled into the rest bay, our observations from PolAir have been relayed to our police officers. Plain vehicle's been a go in there, and as the police officer's been approaching the driver, I understand he's jumped back in the vehicle, taken off, narrowly missed one of our police officers. And as I said before, the vehicle's been spiked and then driven about 1.8 kilometres before the driver's lost control and crashed.
What's the process for the risk assessment that the officers undertook before laying spikes? Do they have to get that confirmed by anyone else, or is it just between them?
It is business as usual for all of our police officers in terms of assessing risk around what are the various options available to them to minimise harm to everybody involved, including themselves. So it's a dynamic process where they're consistently evaluating the need to take certain action or change what action they're taking, who to advise, etc. So there are layers of control over this as well. One of the issues that we did have out of that location, as you probably appreciate, is quite remote. So communication is a big issue for us out in that region, which did also cause some delays in being able to actually notify out about what has happened and basically provide some details. So mobile phone coverage is absent in the location where the crash was. So that obviously complicates some of the issues that we had in terms of managing the scene as well.
We all sort of know it's stock standard, but just for viewers at home, the operations and spiking, that's all usual procedure in this situation?
Absolutely. So spiking a vehicle to disable it is one of our business as usual processes to try and disable the vehicle so that one, we can apprehend a person or persons involved with that vehicle, but secondly, to disable the vehicle so it can't be used in a way that potentially poses a danger to other people, whether it be on the roads or elsewhere. So this is a very common practice. I think people would know quite well about it, that spiking a vehicle is absolutely a valid operational tactic for us to consider to minimise harm to everybody involved.
Can you tell us anything more about the driver? Obviously you mentioned he was a suspect known to police.
Yes, look, the driver was known to police. He had we were actually looking for him for a breach of an intervention order in relation to domestic violence and a couple of other issues as well. And tragically, he has made some choices yesterday which has resulted in him losing his life.
What was the miscommunication with the lack of phone reception, sorry?
So, being quite a remote area where the incident occurred, there is no phone coverage. So what that does mean is it makes it more difficult to actually communicate out. So obviously you haven't got mobile phone coverage, etc. It can slow down some of the messaging in terms of being able to get reception, to get coverage, to get things organised. Essentially, that's all I meant by that.
As in the officers who first saw him were unable to tell people that they found him. I'm not following.
So essentially the job was well known, but when you're actually trying to contact other resources to come out and conduct the investigation and to deploy out to the area, etc., that's where it becomes a little bit challenging in terms of logistics. In terms of the notification back, that itself wasn't really the case.
So there was a delay?
Look, there was a little bit of delay there because of the fact we do rely on mobile phones to communicate, different messaging, etc., and to be able to talk with people about what's happened in detail, because clearly you can only add a certain amount of information to a computer system that generates that information back via our mobile computer terminals.
Police doing amazing work trying to save the gentleman's life. That delay, did that affect the response time of other emergency services, paramedics, fireys at all?
Look, I don't think so, and without knowing exactly the circumstances, I don't know that would have made a difference in the circumstances. I think despite the best efforts of police officers on the scene conducting CPR and trying to save this man's life, they were not successful.
Can we ask you a few other questions about some overnight excitement? Just starting with Christie's Beach, a police officer assaulted after an offender was trying to break into a home. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, police were called to Saltbush Avenue at Christie's Beach last night after a home was broken into, and the person breaking into the home was observed by CCTV. Police officers, when they arrived, the person was still at the address, and when they went to apprehend him, this person has assaulted one of our police officers by punching them in the face. Fortunately for our police officer, they've only received minor injuries, but a 21-year-old male has been arrested and refused police bail. And he's been charged with a range of offences, including assaulting a prescribed emergency services worker.
And also a number of youths caught a stolen car in the northern suburbs.
Yes, so yet again we've got some young people involved in driving around in a stolen vehicle. So yesterday there were 5 youths who were spotted driving a stolen vehicle out in the northern suburbs. They stopped the vehicle and got out and ran off into a park. Police were able to quickly arrive and chase them to the park and apprehended all 5. Disturbingly, there's a 15-year-old, 14-year-old and 13-year-old boy involved, and also a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old girl involved in this as well. It's difficult to apportion blame to anybody else except these kids, in terms of the choices they make. But clearly, we'd be very concerned about how they're actually able to be out together, how they're actually able to get into a stolen vehicle in the small hours of the morning, when most people would expect that people of that age would ordinarily be home in bed, even if it is close to New Year's Eve. But a really disturbing, case of kids putting themselves in danger, and thankfully they actually decided to stop their car and get out and run rather than try and drive away from police, because once again that just increases the risk to them and everybody else on the roads. And I'd much rather be talking about them being apprehended by police than being more statistics on our roads. So thankfully for them, the worst of it is that they've been arrested and a number of them have been refused bail, whereas they could have ended up being seriously injured or being killed themselves.
Have you got a message for the community? I mean, only 4 days into the new year and we've got 2 deaths on our roads.
Yeah, the message for the community around that deaths on our roads can sometimes be difficult to get through to some people. But far and away, the majority of people in our community do absolutely the right thing on our roads. Some of the consistent things that we do see though is that there are some people like the 33-year-old man yesterday who passed away, you know, that really dangerous erratic driving, it's just often a matter of time before you either crash your vehicle or kill yourself or kill somebody else when you, and this is often what people think about in terms of who's actually dying in our roads. But the key here is that people who are ordinarily good drivers sometimes take risks, small risks. You know, if they're stressed out because of whatever, work, home, family, etc., people will drive like they're stressed out. They will take risks, they will be aggressive when they're driving, and that increases the risk on our roads. You know, motorcyclists have been a big overrepresentation, if you like, in our lives lost last year and in previous years. Oftentimes what we see is some risk-taking behaviour in terms of driving a little bit fast, etc. And the first life lost part of the investigation will form whether speed was a factor and an inability for that particular driver to negotiate a bend in the road. So what I say to people is, don't think it's not going to happen to you, because it can. And the best way you can protect yourself and your family is to drive safely on our roads. If you are feeling stressed out or you are feeling upset, stop, collect yourself and then go again. And clearly, don't drink and drug drive, put your seatbelt on, don't speed, don't be distracted, don't use your phone, and don't drive dangerously.
Just one more back to the original crash, if that's alright. Just going back to the direction the car was heading in. Is it possible he was doing a U-turn to evade any more police, or it's too hard to tell?
I don't know the circumstances of that. What I do know is that the vehicle, like I said, was about 1.8 kilometres from the road stop when it lost control and crashed.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.